Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways, Torah life.
Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries, and it's time for this coming week's Torah Parashah, and we're up to Torah Parashah number 42, and this week we talk about many of the different tribes of Israel, and they're about to head into the Promised Land, but on the way into that Promised Land, of course, things are still happening. So we see in this week's reading that we'll get into it, two of the tribes, or 2.5 of the tribes said, let us stay behind and not cross over the Jordan. Let us stay behind because it's good for our livestock here on this side of the Jordan. And we'll see what happened with that. Plus many other interesting things in this week's Torah. But this week's Torah reading is from Numbers 32 to Numbers 42:42. So there are a lot of twos in there. So that's this week's Torah Parashah. And it starts off this week in Numbers 30. It says that Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes of the people of Israel. And then he told about men and women about making a vow and the importance of keeping a vow. The women or the young girls keeping a vow to their father. So if it was a young girl under a certain age, she was to make a vow. But a father could actually overrule that vow or at least secure it. And that was one of the things it talks about. But when it talks about a man, it talks about here, it says, when a man makes a vow to Yahweh or formally obligates himself by swearing an oath, he is not to break his word, but is to do everything he said he will do. And in Jeremiah it says, cursed be the man that keeps not the words of this covenant. We have to understand the significance of making a vow or making a covenant or making a promise. And I don't think people enough today do so. And because they don't take such a heavy importance of the importance of their words, they don't think about things before they do them. And many people act way before they should on certain things, getting them into a lot of trouble to begin with. But when you take such a significance on the vows and the promises you make, you give that much importance to it of thinking before you act. Because you know once you act, you know, some of these vows can't be broken. And that's the importance of that. And they didn't lie back then, or at least the righteous people didn't. And the righteous people don't go out lying today, but righteous people today do act too quickly and make a vow or a promise before thinking about it, and they get themselves in trouble that way. Well, if we follow the standard here found in the scriptures, we don't have to worry about things like that or as much as that if we're thinking about it before we actually go and act on it. Another thing we see in Numbers 31, it says, continuing from last week, that Yahweh told Moses and the tribes to take vengeance on the people of the Midian and go to war against them because of the deception of the women of Midian, how they deceived the men of Israel that we saw last week and the week before in the readings. And he was told to kill every one of them, to take vengeance and destroy them. But we see here, Israel didn't listen. They went to war, they destroyed them. Yahweh handed the Midianites over to them, but they spared the children and the women. And Yahweh's anger blazed, saying, how could you do that? You know, these same women that caused a plague that killed thousands amongst you, you let them survive when I told you to destroy them? So Yahweh had to correct them and tell them, you know, you need to act more wise in what you're doing. And that wasn't a wise move. But Yahweh saved them, Yahweh corrected them, as always. But again, the people, we act but we don't think. And that's a big problem in today's world. We need to think about what we're doing. I mean, you have the Midian women bringing Israel this great plague on them because of their adulterous women, and then they're going to go to war to destroy them but leave the women left over. That doesn't make sense. There's a lot of things out there today that don't make sense. We might have a job and our boss might do something that doesn't make sense to us. Sometimes I wonder how some of these organizations and business stay in business with the decisions they make. You know, the only thing I can think of, Yah's blessing is on them because they're not making smart moves. But here, you know, we see people making unwise moves, but, you know, they're destroying the community of Yahweh, and Yahweh won't stand for that. and he used Moses to let them know that's a big problem and we're going to have to correct this immediately, or it's going to continue to get worse. So as we look at this, we go on to and we look at in Numbers 31:49, where it says the soldiers that went into war against the Midianites, they took a count of all the people to see how many survived, and it says not one of us is missing. So not only did Yahweh hand them over in this war, but not one of the commanders of Israel, or the soldiers, not even the commander, the soldiers of Israel, as it says here, were missing. So you know Yahweh's hand is on something like that. Then we go to Numbers 32, where it says, it was as we started off talking about this week, the descendants of Gad and Raven saw the land and how good it was for the livestock, and or Reuben, they saw the land and they saw how good the livestock was, and they wanted that, but it wasn't on the side of the Jordan that Yahweh told them to go to, because Yahweh wanted them all to go over the Jordan and take that land of Canaan. But Moses said, are you going to discourage the people to cross over the Jordan just like the spies did, as we read a couple of weeks ago? And that caused Yahweh's anger to blaze as well. Well, they said, no, just let us leave our women and our young ones behind with the livestock. We'll go to war, and until everything Yah wants has happened on the other side of Jordan, we won't come back. So they made that agreement, and that's what happened. And we'll see in the future readings the significance of this right here of staying on the other side of the Jordan, because there was a big problem with that later on when it came to going to war and destroying, and other communities coming back later and going against the north and the south of Israel. This has a big significance right here of those 2.5 tribes not crossing over the Jordan and staying where they were. So we'll be talking about that, and it's very interesting. Now, it goes on here to say here, it continues to talk about after they help the tribes cross over the Jordan and help them destroy everyone that's there, then they can go back, and that agreement continues. It says, but if you do not do as you were saying, your sin will find you. So that's very interesting. So they made this agreement with the tribes that says, all right, Yahweh says you can stay here for your livestock, but you got to come with us now and help us finish the job we had, and then you go back. But if you go back sooner than you say you're going to go back, your sin will find you. And that is in Numbers 32:23. Your sin will find you. Now, folks, we can run and we can hide from people, but we can't run and hide from Yahweh. He knows our heart and He sees our actions. And if we're not being obedient to Him, we should feel very convicted about it and do something about it to correct the situation. But we can't hide from Him. And as it says right here, the sin will find us. We will be revealed. So, we think that we can hide, we think that we can run, and we can even outsmart Yahweh, but that's not the case. So, the only way to be comfortable and safe is to follow His Torah, His guidelines and instructions. Now, I keep reading these things that say, we no longer have to do that. Well, in Matthew 5:17, it doesn't say the Torah is done away with. It says that we are to keep His guidelines and instructions, and Yeshua fulfilled it to set an example of exactly how to keep them. So nowhere in the scriptures does it say it's done away with. And this is why Paul even said, it's those that are obedient to the word that will be blessed. He gives us the great things to help us accomplish these things, like the Shabbat. He gives us the Sabbath for our own rest. But those that start letting wicked things get into their life, they start being strayed away and taken away from the things we should be doing. The next thing you knew is they're mingling the seed, and then the seed is corrupted. And that's what happened last week when we saw the Moabite and the Midian women mingling the seed of the holy of Israel, the set-apart seed, with the world. And we have to keep those separate, folks. And we have to have the mind of Messiah and the actions of Torah to keep ourselves away from the world's wicked ways and getting corrupted to do the things that they do that go against Torah. You know, it says that you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. Well, it's found in the Torah. You know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. The teachings are not that difficult to understand. The Bible gives a great history book to show us if we obey His word, we will be blessed. And there are going to be consequences for our disobedience. You know, the book is there, the information is there, not only of the past, but also what is going to happen in the future for those that obey and those that disobey. I say it all the time and I'll say it again. We're not saved by works. We're saved through the blood of Messiah. But if we're truly saved, we should have every desire to do those works. And it's those works that bless us. And the opposite of blessings is curses. So folks, start learning your Torah if you don't know it. If you do know it, continually read it and set an example for others of how Yahweh wants us to live our lives. And you and those around you will be blessed and the community will be holy. Alright everybody, this is Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries. We have many other videos and Torah portions every week, so let your friends know. Until then, have a great Shabbat next Sabbath, and Shalom Shalom.
Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways.